today is going paperless in the classroom. And so if you're looking to follow along with the link, tinyurl.com/bye-bye-paper. So I will be actually walking through the demonstration. I will have the slides available through that slideshow, but what I will actually be doing on the screen is actually bringing you in to see those things. And so that link will be there for you for later. If you are tweeting away, the hashtag is LTOCSB today. I will be live tweeting the session as well via scheduled tweets. If you want to connect with me, meganmalwa.com. I'll post the presentation there after the presentation. That's my OCSB email, and I am live streaming the video of this presentation as well. It'll be posted to my YouTube channel, which you can find on my Google+. So who am I? I'm a high school teacher. I teach at St. Pius X High School. I'm in my 10th year now. Right now I'm teaching history and English. In my spare time, I'm also a moderator for Canada's EdChat. We do that every Monday night at 8 p.m. So if you're ever interested in participating in an educational chat, just a little plug there for that. We talk about a lot of different topics from week to week with educators all across the country. Spent some time as one of the co-lead teachers for the differentiated instruction team at my school. I have completed my Google Apps for Education individual certification, which I do need to retake. Really passionate about assessment for learning, integration of technology in the classroom, and plowing ahead, you will see that I am admittedly 100% on Team Google. It is that which I'm familiar with. So we now have the power to harness multiple things in our hands. At this stage in 2016, a mobile device like a cell phone has so many different apps, applications, things that we can use. And so this session is going to talk to you about sort of harnessing that power and using these things. And this is an intermediate / advanced section, so you should have a basic working knowledge of Google Docs, of Google Forms, of Google Sheets to really get the most out of it. If not, I can always help you out with that stuff later, but we won't have time to break down like how to make a doc, how to make a sheet, things like that, because we'll be looking at the more advanced functions of those things. We're going to talk about why paperless, why even bother, and then how to get started in the paperless classroom. So I will be talking about powering everything through Google Drive using the learning management system known as Hapara that our school board has provided us with. And then just as an extension of that, how we can stay in touch, connect, communicate with students and families using paperless services that are available as well. So even The Simpsons has picked up on a parody of what is going on in society and the use of technology in a classroom. I'm hopeful that my little video here will work. You'll have to listen very closely. Unfortunately, I'm not connected to a speaker. Just a 23-second clip if it doesn't work. Not a big deal. But it's always interesting when something makes its way into a little anticlimactic. Hi, welcome. Haven't missed much. We're just waiting for a video to stream. We were just talking about that. We're going to be talking about the paperless classroom using Google and Hapara. So we'll try and see if we can get through this because it looks like it started to catch up on its stream.
Thank you so much.
Anybody want to return these caveman kudos to Mr. Bubble?
These caveman kudos. So just kind of a little fun joke there about, you know, just embracing technology and moving on. So why paperless? So the first thing is to talk about the advantages for teachers and for students. The obvious is the less paper. less paper that you're carting home, less paper that you're going through at the photocopier, waiting in those lines, and best of all, no lost assignments or lost notes, because they're always available in the location in which you've put them. A more organized system. It might take a little time off the top to get that organization, but once you figure out the way you want to organize things and how you're going to go about it, if you're someone like me whose desk is covered, Natalie can attest to this, with papers and stacks and everything everywhere, it's so much easier for me to just get those folders set up and have everything in those things. In terms of assessment, looking at portfolios, a range of skills over a set amount of time and a variety of different products, rather than having everything in a duotang, in a classroom, things like that. You can easily access all of these things in a folder of student products. So if you're looking to assess most recent and most consistent, this is a great way where you can go back and look to see the changes that have been made. Collaboration and opportunity for a global audience. We'll talk about workspaces and Google Docs where you can easily collaborate within those to do group-based tasks. The global audience part, I haven't quite got my class there yet, but things like blogs that you're publishing for all to see to get feedback from around the world. There's a lot of schools that are doing that, who are integrating technology, and they're getting people to give comments, ask questions to help extend that knowledge, to create sort of more this visible thinking and this global community aspect, which is a really nice thing that you have online that you don't have on a piece of paper in your classroom. The use of technology and easier access. So a benefit is learning to use the technologies that students are using all the time anyway, that they have the access to, that they're going to need to use in the real world. And we'll talk about access later, but generally speaking, the easy access of finding something online or finding something in a folder, as opposed to, like I said, those lost papers, that misplaced textbook, that information that they just can't get their hands on because it's somewhere awry. And so we'll talk about how there's built-in benefits with Google and with Hapara for this. We need to talk about the basic needs. This is kind of a little bit of a pun intended here, but the play on the Maslow pyramid of needs, and how if you ask kids nowadays, like the Wi-Fi and the battery life are right there at the bottom. It is the most essential. So this is sort of a bit of a joke, but the idea is that we do have to have access to that technology. And we'll talk about this when we're talking about challenges and drawbacks. And there has to be access to the internet. You need to roll out a learning management system and those tools. That is part of the basic need and the basic startup, and then how you're going to roll that out, what your startup procedure is going to be. We also have to teach students how to be paperless. We can't just assume that they understand or they know how to do this. We often talk about this generation as sort of the tech generation, and I'm not necessarily sure that that's apt. I think they're a social media generation, but I'm not entirely sure that you can call them a all-encompassing technology generation. And so while they can probably tell you all about, iMessage and Snapchat and Instagram, when I'm working with the students setting up documents and I ask them to, justify the spacing or use tabbing to indent, they don't know what that means. Double space, so I hit enter twice? No. So we can't assume that they know these things, and we have to build that into our practice as well. And also the digital citizenship piece of what it means to work online, what it means to post online, what the expectations for online behavior and online use is, and how to be a good citizen of the internet, because that's a key need as well. There's going to be obstacles and challenges when you're trying to roll out something new, especially with technology. Of course, access to technology is a big issue. And this ties into a greater issue, which is we're seeing a lot in the United States right now with the idea of digital equity. And that if students need these things to be successful in school, then do we have a situation where things are equitable if not all students have access to devices or home internet and things like that? So there's a huge movement in the United States right now pushing for funding for internet and devices for students. And so that's something that we need to consider as well when we're talking about this, because we are a bring your own device school board. We're not a one-to-one where the schools issue a device to each student. And so we have to look at our student dynamic and how we're going to overcome issues with access to devices as well. And of course, the reliability of the devices and the internet. And what we do in situations like that. There's going to be a learning curve for you and for the students, and how to overcome that and just sort of be gentle with yourself while you're trying to figure things out and go along. And then the time. Up front, just like a lot of new initiatives, it is a lot of time to get everything set up and get it going. But once it is rolled out and you do have sort of the skeleton there, I find that it's a lot less time on my part. And so that is an advantage, but first it's sometimes an obstacle to overcome. So my whole presentation today is going to talk to you about how we're using Hapara as a learning management system with Google Apps for Education to create a paperless classroom. So we'll see if we can get this video up. If not, it's not a big deal.
When I can control what I'm learning and how I learn it, it makes it more exciting for me to actually come to school and come to class.
You can really take it as far as you want to because it's always there for you.
One of the sort of core discoveries for me personally was just what it means to be a teacher. The reality of the job where doors close, it's you and it's 20, 30, or 50 kids. The things we know work are connections with people. It's ownership, it's collaboration. It's something that's meaningful. We're holding young people actually who are changing people's lives.
Getting to work with teachers. They are amazing people. They do phenomenal work, and it's really exciting to be able to work directly with them.
It adds another layer. It enables us to not only just dish out resources, it means that we can actually manage the whole learning process.
That's also people that are deep with this. The ability to sort of channel another expert through Hapara, right? I mean, through the dashboard, to share the world of knowledge and to do it instantaneously is really powerful.
Being able to collaborate to make something better than what we will be able to make on our own.
The notion of Jim teachers telling me that, hey, this is really exciting economy, this is something we do with my kids. This is making a difference for how that's really going to be.
It's clean, it's efficient, it's engaging.
You just focus on helping kids learn. No ads, no nothing, just help kids learn.
No ads, no nothing, just help kids learn. So you'll see there was a few stills there from our school board as one of the adopters of Hapara. So this is something that we all have access to through our OCSB emails. So I'm going to switch from the slideshow right now. For those of you who are following along with it, you can keep following along. But I do actually want to physically walk you through the way that Hapara works. So I'm going into the teacher dashboard for Hapara. Okay, so I'm already logged in. I'll give you a few minutes here if you want to literally walk this journey with me to get logged in. And if not, that's totally fine. You can see some stills in the presentation as well that go along with this. Is everybody in who wants to be in? Just let me know if you need a little bit more time. We've got tons of time. Okay. So right now you'll see that I'm logged in at the top right-hand corner, and you'll see I've got my classes here with my managed classes. I have some classes hidden because they were last semester and I'm not using them. So just to keep things not cluttered, I got rid of those from my screen. So the class that I use to do my paperless class is the ENG3U. And here we are. So this is our teacher dashboard. As soon as I click on my course that's been powered to me through the school board, I see all of my students' names on the dashboard. This is everyone who is in this class. And my teacher dashboard gives me options like dashboard, Gmail, highlights, workspace, and class info, and we'll go through each one of those individually. So you'll notice on the teacher dashboard that I've got the names of all of my students, and I can actually see all of the work in their folders. This is only because it is in the folder for my class. This is not their entire Google Drive that I have access to. It is strictly the ones that they have put into my course folder. So when I start my year with them, I go into my own Google Drive and I have a folder that's been created for me. And I teach them how to log into their student email accounts to make sure they know how to do that. I teach them how to get into their Drive. And then I ask them to look in their shared with me to find the one that talks about this. So you'll see it's your school code. In my case, it's PIH for St. Pius, my course code, and then the different code for the courses. So I had the English last semester, so it was 1. This semester, it's 3. So within this folder, this is my course folder that I have access to and only I have access to. I see this part. So once all of that information you were seeing from my students on that dashboard screen, that is what is contained in this Hapara folder. These are all of the students with all of their folders. So this is, they don't see all of this. I see this because I'm the teacher. They each have one folder for each of their courses. So we get them set up at the beginning of the year. I tell them to go into their English folder and that I want them to create 4 folders because I have 4 big units of study in this class. So we've got the short stories, the essays unit, the nonfiction, we study 1984, we study Macbeth, and their CPT is an ISU. So we go in on a day that I book the Chromebooks or I tell them to bring their devices, and we go in and we create these folders to keep them organized, to keep me from having to look everywhere to find things. And so then when they are creating work, they are putting it in these folders. The huge advantage of this, and something that you might have found in allowing students to do work online, is that every time you turn around, something's popping up in your shared with me, a new email is coming through in your inbox, so-and-so shared this document with you, so-and-so shared this document with you. Oh, I shared it with you, I shared it with you. And you've got this totally disorganized shared with me section, and there's emails everywhere and student work everywhere. So what I teach the students at the beginning and what we talk about is that all work goes in their 3U folder. It doesn't get shared with me, it doesn't get attached and emailed to me, it gets put into this folder. Okay, and so then obviously here we have one of those obstacles and drawbacks. Well, what if they don't have devices? What if they don't have internet? What if they, are unable to, to access these things? This is where your consideration has to come into play. I rolled out a paperless classroom with my 3U class. They're in grade 11. More of them have access to technology. One of the first things I asked was if anyone did not have access to technology. And that wasn't a problem. So I sort of dodged a proverbial bullet there because we were able to do that because they all had access to technology to be able to do this. But that is something that you have to take into account, is what kind of accommodations or sort of modifications are you going to make to your course or how you do things if you have students who don't have the access. The next part is, like I said, teaching them about how to be paperless. So going through this and showing this to them. And for the first few assignments, I was getting students sharing things with me. And so we talked about that we don't share, it goes in your folder so that I'm not losing track of documents, that this is so that I'm not sort of going awry with what we need. Yeah.
Megan, wonder if you could take 2 minutes and show us to sync offline work in Drive for students. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I usually get the students to sync their folders themselves to offline access. So when you go into a student folder, if you go into their documents, so I'll take this student's essay for an example, and sorry, I'm not as good with the mouse on the Chromebook as I am with my normal computer.
if you do it right from your drive, it applies to everything.
It should, yeah.
Right in,
Yeah.
but you, yeah, but from here, from the Hapara folder, right? See, every time I click.
I've done it from my drive. I can't do it for other students. They have to.
That's what I think. I'm only going to be able to show my stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so. I don't even know if I have any documents in this stuff. Come on. Barely move the mouse. And it's not letting me right click.
Oh, I just figured, yeah, it's very simple. So we just go into settings in our own drive.
Yeah, I know, but I can't even move my.
There you go. Alt click gives you right click.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Okay, here we go. Sorry. I was expecting to be able to use my laptop today. So if you, I'm struggling to right click, so I had to use the Alt right click to get the menu up. But when you're in your document, and we talked about this session 1, I believe, or maybe I was talking with a lady at the back. But the problem is in terms of internet access is that sometimes it goes down. And the nice thing about Google is that you can work on documents offline and then it will sync when you come back online. So if you've made changes or things like that, you can still access offline. Same thing if you're somewhere you've got Drive loaded to your iPad, for example, or a phone, and you don't have access, you can actually work on a document, okay? So when you go in and you click on the sync offline, you can sync your folders offline. I'm not gonna do it because this isn't my computer, it's LT's. But I do have that set up on my computer. One consideration is if you have multiple email addresses, you can't sync offline for 2 addresses on one computer. So say you have a personal Gmail and an OCSB and you log into both regularly on one device, you have to choose which ones you are going to sync offline. So for me, I use my personal computer for my personal files and my work computer syncs my OCSB files. You can't have both. You can run multiple accounts on Google to access Drive and the email, but you can't access offline access to multiple email addresses. So just make sure that you're aware of that. If it's your personal computer and you're syncing your personal documents and then you log in with OCSB and sync those, your personal ones are no longer syncing for offline. Okay, so that is an important consideration. And like was mentioned, I can do this because it's my files. The students have to do this themselves to sync their files through their own personal settings. Okay, so that's an excellent way to overcome one obstacle, which is losing access to the documents. Thanks so much for bringing that up, Sarah.
It just helps the whole class.
Yeah.
Because you can keep working, they can keep working.
Absolutely, absolutely, when things go down, which is a great advantage there. So when we're looking at the dashboard feature for Hapara, you'll see we've got a few different things up here. We've got a message function. It looks like a speech bubble. And so you can actually send a message to groups of students or to the whole class. So maybe you want to send a link out. Maybe you're in the middle of talking about something and they're trying to find a link. And they say, oh, did somebody have that? Or and you can say, yep, I'll just type it in, I'll send it to you. And it'll pop right up for them. If you want to give like a time check, like this many minutes left, this many minutes left, sometimes students will be asking for that for things like tests or things like essays. It's a great way to use that function as well. You've also got the Smart Share, which is up there, which means you can actually share immediately while they are working in their workspace a document from the Drive. And so that's your Smart Share feature up there. And that, there we go. And so that automatically you can choose any file that would be in Drive. So that's a doc, that's a sheet, that's a form, a presentation, a drawing. And you can automatically send that to them. And you can Smart Share to certain classes or all of your classes. Yes?
Is there an option on there to do like edit, like read only or, you know?
So that would be in the document when you create it yourself. And so you're not sharing through here. So when I create my documents in my folders, I make my documents for my students' view only.
You can also do that when you upload something from your
Yes,
drive.
but right here, if you were choosing something, you couldn't, after you've selected it, make it to a view only. You can from Smart Share?
Yes. Yeah, Smart Share.
Since when?
As a copy with the pen name.
Oh, a copy. Yeah.
Or you can choose view only or read and write or comment. And choose a file first.
Okay.
Yeah.
How have I never noticed that?
Yeah.
Oh, in the permissions. I've never bothered. Okay. Sorry, that's my mistake. That's why it's so great to have people who also use this. No, it's great. I love crowdsourcing information. Session 1, Tom gave us a great substitute for Clearly. I had no idea they discontinued the app, because if you already have it, or the extension, sorry, if you already have it, they didn't like take it away from you. So I'm like telling everybody to look up Clearly, and everyone's like, there's no Clearly. I'm like, no, there's a Clearly. It was where you can like rid your page of like ads. Yeah. And so he was like, yeah, they discontinued that a month ago. Okay, I'm a month behind the time. Yeah.
If you shared read write, they can type on it, but
Yes. Can see the one document. Read only, they just see.
Yeah, but once you send a copy to them, you can't modify it.
Right.
And you can't unless you go into each one and
take it back. Right. So that's the one thing about the Smart Share, which Sarah mentioned that's really important, is that once it's been shared, you can't take it back. So in Drive, for example, if I give, a list of essay topics, and then I might unshare that in case I want to use some in a future year or things like that, or, test answer questions for like a formative assessment. It's just formative, but I'm still going to unshare the answers so that the next time I give a quiz to a new group, they haven't looked at the exact answers. And so I can unshare that in my Drive and set those permissions. Something really cool and new that Google's done is they set an expiry now on shared documents. So you can now actually auto set a time that your sharing privileges are going to expire. So when you share something with someone,
Is that true when you're sharing with Paperless too?
Well, I'm powering everything through the Google Docs. So I've set it up here. So when I look at my Going Paperless that I just directly shared with Natalie, if I click on her name, see that little clock right beside? I can now set an expiry date. So yeah, Natalie, you can have this, but only for 30 days.
10 minutes to revise it.
And then it's gone, and you no longer have access to it. That's right. That's not directly in Hapara, but that's sort of a neat feature to have access to as well. So that's.
Does it inform the person that you shared it with that they only have 30 days?
I haven't been on the receiving end of an expiry, so maybe Natalie could let us know if she sees that she only has it.
No. She's
no.
From Google Docs.
Okay.
So you can't do
when we look at our highlights tab, we see that there's nothing on there. The highlights tab is only advantageous to you if students are using school-based computers. When a student logs into a school-based Chromebook with an OCSB student email, that is what activates this screen. And so you are able to view the browser tabs and the screens that the students are working on on that Chromebook, on that computer. So obviously an advantage here being to make sure students are on task. Also a neat advantage if you are giving a formative assessment, and I'll talk about a Google form in Flubaroo later, but to make sure while they're taking a quiz online, they're not actually in another tab looking up answers. So that's a nice advantage as well.
Maybe if they're on their own device, but they logged in through their OCSB account?
No.
Oh.
It's only through when they've logged into the actual computer through that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's one of those, when we talk about drawbacks, advantages, that is another drawback of the not being one-to-one with school-provided devices, is that if you're not making access to those devices, and I know they're few, I mean, we have quite a few in our schools, but obviously it's not a one-to-one, and so if you are having students on their own devices, this isn't something that is an option. So this current screen and browser tabs, you know, I wouldn't say it's the biggest advantage of Apara. I mean, it is certainly nice because sometimes students get a little bit off task, but it's something that is there and that you can make available to you. But I find for the most part, once they're into it and the novelty wears off, they're actually pretty good. And again, it's the level you choose to work with. I've chosen to work with my grade 11 university level students on this. This would be a very different reality depending on the makeup of the class, the grade of the class, things like that. You always need to be cognizant of your own students' needs. The workspaces is something that I'm not using right now because I've just been using Google Documents and Google Folders for collaborative approaches. I did set one up and I'm going to try it with my next unit, which is Macbeth, for the students. So you'll see I have this is a test. And where students can work together, so you can create your groups. You can see exactly who has done what, the individual activity. You can see the activity summary, so what has been done in the document. And they can add a lot of different things like goals, like resources. You can add evidence, you can add rubrics. And again, this workspace can be shared. It can be even shared publicly. And students can work within here. And there's options for you to edit what you're going to do. You're going to email your description, things like this. And then, like I said, it can be published. So it's just another tool for collaborative work where students can work together on something. And like those Google Docs with the revision history, you can see who is doing what and when, which is a really nice advantage to that, especially if you're doing things that are collaborative and you want to make sure that everyone is participating. That's always a really nice advantage to have there. The class info screen is sort of your basic screen, your sort of go-to screen to access, I would say, your most pertinent information. So it's you, it's them with all their email addresses. You have a class email set up right away. So you don't have to create an email list, copy and paste all of your student emails to send things out to them. You have an email address that will feed things out to all the students who are registered to that course.
So if I wanted to send an email on this screen, could I do it to all the students?
You would just click it. Yep.
Class email?
Yep, so you just click that class email and it will open your Google with that in the to slot.
Can they go reply all in that and everybody in the class can see their reply?
I don't know.
In workspace?
No, when you're sending a class email, but when you're sending it to the Pi ENG3U. I've never had it happen. I'm also going to talk about how I use Remind 101 right now, and so I don't use this much. But that's a great question that I'm going to look into. Thank you. Yeah, you click on the email.
Yeah, in my Gmail.
And it opens right up to your Gmail. So again, be careful if you're signed into multiple Gmail accounts, right? Because it goes automatically to your subject line. And so if you're signed into your private personal Gmail and that's what's been last signed into, then you're going to send your students an email from your personal email account. So just make sure that you keep an eye on that if you work with different Gmail accounts. So that main dashboard is great for you to see exactly what the students have in their folders, because this is a really quick look. So this is what I give a cursory glance to. An assignment is due. I say an assignment is due at 1:20, which is the start of my class. So you don't have to go to each kid. I showed you all those folders. You don't have to click on every name, double click, look in the folder to see if the assignment's there, and then pull Bobby, Jimmy, and George aside and say you didn't hand your assignment in after you've clicked on all these folders. When you look at this main dashboard screen, you can see exactly what is in their folder for you. and only for you as the classroom teacher. So if I know that I should have ISU proposal handed in, then I can see who has submitted the ISU proposal. And so I can see if there is one missing, that I know who I have to see rather than clicking on every individual folder to get in there. If I'm supposed to have an essay in there, or if I'm supposed to have journal number 1, I can see if journal number 1, oh yeah, there it is. Oh, no proposal in this folder. So I can see right away what is missing from those folders as opposed to clicking on each student. Yes?
You know how you had your kids set up with 4 folders?
Yes.
For your 4 units. So like if that was in your Macbeth folder,
yes.
You don't ever see the folder, you just see the folder.
Correct, exactly. So these students, some of these students, actually most of them, have properly grouped their stuff. You don't see it in the dashboard view.
Okay.
You will see that in folder view. And so this is just my quick way of checking at the start of a class if anything's missing, so that I can talk to them right away. So it's not, 10 days later when I finally get into that student's folder and then you realize something's missing. Because that's the advantage, you think off the top of paper. Well, I call you up one by one, and then when Audra says I don't have it, well, I know Audra doesn't have it. Yeah, step it up, Audra.
I was just gonna add that if you have an issue where a kid says, like, it's in there, I swear, and they're like showing you their screen and it's there, but it doesn't show up for you, there can be a glitch sometimes. I had this happen first semester with one of my classes, and I had to go to, if you go to class info.
Yes, so that's
class actions, it says fix class holders.
Right.
And it'll just correct any mistakes. So if there is like a glitch or an error, it'll just like in the background, it'll run and it'll fix all the problems. And it just was like 2 calls and the girl's work was there. So like, she was like, it's here, and she's showing me on hers, but it wouldn't show up on my computer for some reason. So if there's ever an issue, that's like a magic button.
Right, and that, the nice thing about that too, like Audra says, is like then when it finally does appear in her folder, she can go into that document and view the revision history and see that, it was done by the deadline. It wasn't, oh, I shared it with you, I swear. Oh, it was done 2 weeks ago. And then you go into the revision history and the document was created last night at 11:30 at night. So you do have that access where you can see exactly when it was worked on as well. So if you do have an issue, and I usually run the fixed class folders probably once a month, just to make sure, because it doesn't delete anything, it doesn't wipe anything, it's like running a virus scan basically, or running a defragment on your computer, where it finds things that are sort of out of sorts and it patches them up. And so, no, not at all. Yes.
The search tab?
Yes.
Can you show that?
Yes, absolutely.
I should visually looking, but that's even quicker, right?
Yes. So okay, I'll go to class folders after.
But you can't see revision history.
How do you create your folder again? Is that class folder that you click on?
That's right. That is I was going to do that. I'm just going to show you the search function, and then we'll talk about how to get into your class folders where you can actually access the documents, where I go to mark and how I mark them and things like that. So when you're on that main screen, you can also search. Something that I need to be more careful with is setting a name of an for the assignment. Because like for this one, you have this student who wrote ISU 1. So if I typed in journal, I'm not going to find it. And that's what I would instinctively type in, would be, journal, things like that. So some people would say it's really important that you get kids like naming things properly, certain things like that, which is the reason why I just tend to do the quick view easier. But as you'll notice, I can only see the top 3 assignments. Well, what happens when we get to 10 assignments? I can't see something that was older on my dashboard anymore. And so you want to use the search, and you want to type in, maybe we'll type in the word proposal, and you can search by title or by alt text. And so when you hit the search there, all of these have the word proposal. So the problem is Jenny she did do her proposal, but because I didn't mandate a title, it doesn't come up. And so that is something else to be cognizant of when you are deciding how you're going to roll this out, is do you want to have a required title for your assignments so that it is easier for you to find. And that's something that's really important as well when you're going through.
You could also share a blank document. Like just
Exactly,
a document
with the
that
title.
already titled and their name, and it's already there for them to write.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to make a blank document for all students that has already got the built-in what you want, you can do that as well. It again depends on your students, depends on the level. I think my students, I just need to be more conscious of reminding them of what I've asked for the title.
In Workspace, can you only smart share something from the drive?
Yes, you can only smart share from Drive. Yes, because it's meant to power with Google. So when we go into my ENG3U folder, we see two things. We see ENG3U for students, and then we see the folder from Hapara that has all my students' folders in it. So this is in my 3U folder, and this is shared with my students. And so I've shared it with the ENG3U/3/1516. So it's automatically shared with all the students registered to that class. So I have set up all of my folders, and within all of these folders are all of the notes for the class. We don't do hard copies in my class. If they want to print out hard copies, they're more than welcome to. But everything is available to them online right from the beginning of the semester. Day one, it's all in there and they have access to it. Yes, except tests.
So what they're doing then is they're accessing the assignment from their Google Drive.
Correct.
And then they're somehow sharing it with you through Hapara.
Right, yeah, so I'm going to show you something from like one example of an assignment, and then we're going to go into their folder where they would do it.
What I did, I mean, just to show you.
Yeah.
Like, I added all the assignments to their dashboard.
You can.
But it's a disaster, like it's a big mess. It's not organized.
Yeah, so it's the organization piece, and so that's why I had already done this. This was from 3 years ago, and I'm not sure if the board had Hapara at that time. I wasn't using it. And so I just sort of stuck with what I knew and then tried to integrate Hapara where I could to make it more efficient. And so I've just stuck with having this folder in my Hapara folder so that they can access it. I haven't actually dragged and dropped or shared directly in Hapara. And so all the students have access to this. So I have the lesson, like this is my PowerPoint, I have questions, I have essay topics, all of these things. So this is all for them to access. All my dates, all my due dates for the whole semester are there, their rubrics, things like that. And then when they want to submit to me, they go into their own folder. Let's find, that's Ricky. So when they want to submit something for me, they go into their own folder. And this is where they submit it. So when I'm going into Mark, I'll use the dashboard to quick check if everybody's handed it in. But then when I'm going to mark what they've done, I go into the student's folder and I pull up the document that I'm going to be working on.
So you can see their work in your drive?
Yes, I have copied, like I have that Hapara folder. I have it on my drive. I even have it starred actually, so I just have to click my start, so I don't have to sort through. We all do. As soon as they like push our courses, it gets created for us. And so then I do all my marking online. I don't have a stack of essays. I don't have a stack of assignments. I have one computer and a folder in which I have everything that I have to mark. And I go through and I use the comment feature and I make comments in the document for the students. And then at the very end, I just copy and paste my rubric and I give it just a general summative comment.
So where do you find the copies feature?
like to use it? The comments, sorry.
The comment feature. So right up here on comments, so you're selecting whatever it is you want to select. It could be a word, it could be a comma, it could be a letter, it could be a whole paragraph, and you are choosing what it is you want to select. You're clicking your comment, you're typing in whatever your comment is. I better not put that, he's going to think I'm putting ha ha ha. And you click post your comment.
So where do they see it? Is it next to the text?
Right here. So it says intro.
Oh, on the
So
side.
when you hold your mouse on this comment, you see the one that I'm talking about. It highlights what the issue is, so that they can see exactly what that goes with. Now, oftentimes, I use this feedback as an opportunity for them to make changes, fix things up, and resubmit. Not always, but then when they have this, they can go through and they can resolve these things, clicking the resolve as they fix the mistakes prior to an actual summative assessment. I also encourage them to use their peer editing to share the document with another peer who can go through, give them comments, they resolve those comments, they fix those comments before I mark it. Because I can see what comments have been resolved in a document that's been shared with me. So I can see if they've taken the time and taken the effort to use that peer feedback to change their writing. And for those of you who teach English, you know that's one of the curriculum expectations, that they have to show that they can revise their writing, they can revise their drafts based on like proofreading feedback, a few other things. That's a whole specific expectation. And so this is a really easy way to find out if they have actually done so.
So in the bottom of the document, you copy and pasted your rubric?
Yeah, so this is just my curriculum expectations. So I told them what strand they were being assessed on, and then I told them what this looked like for me. So for me, rather than saying like, can identify and analyze, blah, 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 I told them like, for me, proof from the novels given through it, right? Uses examples and elaboration, makes inferences and predictions. And so like the writing, the use of form, the conventions, so well written, proper spelling, proper grammar, rather than making it wordy with the curriculum expectations that we actually use.
Is there an option, say, like you want to correct a spelling mistake and fix it for them like you would on paper? Is there an option to do that?
Well, you could edit the document to fix it for them. Yeah, you can suggest in the actual document. I personally just use the comment feature. Like here I put comma splice. But if I went to, instead of editing, if I went to suggesting, I could actually go up here to like ribbons, and when, whoopsies.
Oh, I show the correction.
Right, and it shows what I say that it should be, and then the kid can accept the correction. Do you want to replace ribbons with And we're back. Technical difficulty there. Okay. So we're just talking about Flubaroo and how we can use it for formative assessment. Did everybody have a chance to answer? Who wanted to? You don't have to. I just want a few answers so I can show you how it works. So I am the owner of the quiz, so I have access to it. As you can see, responses are coming in while I'm doing this. So if you wanted to have this quiz auto-graded for you, you don't have to do a single thing but click a button about 4 or 5 times. You can do that using Flubaroo. So I come up here to my form and it says view responses in sheets. Okay, and so it's going to load, should be loading, my responses. Try refreshing my page. Has anyone used Flubaroo before? Okay.
Someday I will be able to figure out. Is it a Google tool?
No, Forms, it's an extension. It's an add-on. Yeah. So right here, I just created a spreadsheet. And so I'm asking myself to view the answers. So here are all the answers. I don't want to take the time to look to see if you all got these answers right. So I come up to my add-ons. And you might not have this if you haven't used it. You might have to add your add-on first. I already have Flubaroo, so just follow along with me so you know how this works if you don't have it, and I can help you add it after. And I'm going to click Enable Flubaroo on this sheet. So it said, okay, it's been enabled, you can use it. Great, so I go back up to Flubaroo and I say, grade this assignment. I want you to mark this for me, Flubaroo. So first it says identify student and grading. So it just wants to make sure that I'm not marking them on a few of the questions. It's pretty intuitive. It can figure out what identifies. So name and email address, and all the rest are graded. Okay, perfect. So I click continue. Now it's going to say, okay, well, who's right? Who am I grading this based off of? So before you came, I took the quiz. And I put in all the right answers, so I would have an answer key. And I called mine answer key with my name. So I'm now telling Flubaroo that I am the one who has all the right answers. So mark everybody based on me. So now it's grading my assignment. And there we have it, it's done. So in a click just like that, you now have an assignment grade. So you can see who got which score, you can see what their percent was, and you can see the questions that were really done poorly. Those ones in orange are the ones that a large majority of the class didn't get. Maybe looking at reteaching that, going over that again, because there was something that didn't quite work there because the majority of students got that wrong. To the point that you can even see the actual percentage of people who got that one right and got that one wrong. That's my student submission tab, grade tab. Then if you go to your student submission tab, you can see exactly one by one what they did. When I go back to my main quiz page, I can actually see individual tests. So I'm switching like by name. So this is Sally's, and then I see Natalie's. And I can also look at a summary. If I just want to have an idea about how my class as a whole did, oh wow, everyone got the name of the school board right. Right? And then I look at the next one. Oh, only 33% got this. So it's a nice little overview. And then a fun part that has to do with this one is I go back up to Flubaroo and I can now send these grades to my students. I don't have to sit down one-on-one and conference with them. I can go to share grades, and because they put their email addresses in, it says to me, what is their email address? What is your email? Again, pretty intuitive software. I can include all the questions in their grade. I can include an answer key. And I say, here are your grades. And then I click continue. and it automatically gets sent to you. So you'll all be receiving an email with what question you answered, what the right answer was, and what your score was for this quiz. So just like that, you have a really quick and easy formative assessment that's not on paper, it's not a traditional exit card, that you can do in a paperless classroom. Okay. So time's almost up. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we went through? I know we went quite quickly, plowed through things. Yes?
I don't know if you have time, if you could expand on anything about the workspace. Have you used that?
I have not, and so I'd love to tell you more. I can actually link you to a video in the presentation that expands, and Hapara's instructional videos are quite well done, and so expanding on that so that you can see a little bit more about how workspaces work. At this time, because this is my first year using Hapara, I was off last year on a maternity leave, I've been just using Google Docs and working collaboratively inside of those.
So all those folders and all that, it wasn't in Workspace? It was not in Workspace?
Nope, that's in my students' Google Drive. So when we go into the Drive, and the school board has given me this folder. This was them that created this folder for me. And so I click on it, and these are all of my students' folders. So I can see that in Hapara on the teacher dashboard. I can see all of those things. I can see those kids, I can see their folders, but I'm accessing it from my Drive because they work together. Yeah.
I think Workspace is new.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Great. Okay, so I'm not as far behind the game as I thought I was.
They just added it.
Awesome.
It's like always been there, but like our board is able to like add things
into it.
Like it just got
Okay.
added.
Hey.
You quickly mentioned unsharing a document in Hapara, and that it's not really possible, right?
That I'm aware.
And
that I'm aware of. No.
Share as a read only.
Right.
And then now they have multiple
copies of it.
Folder, and there's nothing I can really do about it, right?
Right.
It's done.
Yes.
It's done.
As far as I know, at this time.
There's no option.
As far as I know, unfortunately. But that might be a tweak that they're looking at coming up with.
Now, when they get a folder,
yep.
They don't necessarily need to make a copy, or do they always need to make a copy to write on it? Can you share your copy of it? Yeah.
When I share the folder, do they have to make a copy of the folder? If it is in their student folder, no, they're the only one that has access to that. When it is in that student folder, and I obviously nowhere near enough time, but if you look in the Going Paperless presentation, tinyurl/byeByePaper, there is a program just like Flubaroo, an add-on called Doctopus. And it's really cool because you can share one document with multiple students and they can all edit it themselves without everyone else seeing the edits. That's in my presentation, a step-by-step guide how to do it. We just don't have time to go over it. It's called Doctopus, and it is in my presentation, tinyurl.com/byeByePaper. Awesome. Any other questions? Anything? Yes?
Remember when you showed all your documents to the students? Did you manually do that? I assume
Yes, that's right. So I did. I made a folder called Valois ENG3U for students. I made that folder and I put it in the Hapara folder rather than sharing it with the students. I already had something that was already sharing with the students. Hapara shares with your class. And so I put it in that folder and then I just dragged and dropped all my folders where I normally would have just printed my student work from. I just took out tests and I just put those folders in so that they would have them. All the copies of the notes, any slideshows from class, lessons, lectures. No, I did not use SmartShare. It was right in the Drive in the Hapara folder for my course. I can show you how to do it. I can come over. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. You guys were a great audience. I know the pace was plowing through, but thank you so much. And thanks to the people who have experience with Hapara, who gave some feedback and insight. Really appreciate that. And hope you had a great day at the summit. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. You can reach me at Ms. Valois on Twitter or megan.valois@ocsb.ca.